Hello, welcome back. I'm Reverend Tomas Garza. And here we are, about ready to embark in another really deep discussion. Isn't that exciting? It should be. I mean, really, it should be, even if it challenges the foundations of everything you currently believe and have been indoctrinated. Yes, I used that word, indoctrinated, to believe. Yeah, let's jump into it, shall we? So, in the manual for teachers, we're on question number 2. Question number 1, as we saw in the previous video, who are God's teachers? Well, anyone who chooses to be one. And we went through that, so I invite you to take a look at the previous video. Question 2, who are their pupils? Who are the students of the teachers of God? Who are their pupils? Well, and while a teacher of God is anyone who chooses to be one, the pupils, students, clients, flock, I don't know, name your term, right? The people that each teacher of God works with, it's a little different story. So the very first sentence of the commentary here tells us that certain pupils have been assigned to each teacher of God, and they will begin looking for this teacher as soon as he or she has answered the call. Whether they're consciously aware of it or not. So some of you have been looking for me. You've found me. Yeah, here I am. Just as I have also found my teachers along the way. I can relate to this in my own journey very deeply because I felt the call. It's something that we use the language here, and you can actually hear it. And to some people, it is a voice, it's sonic. To other people, it is not. And to me, it was just a feeling. That's the best description that I can come up with for my own experience here. Is it was a feeling and just a deep knowing that there was someone out there who could take me, guide me along the next step of my journey. Just knowing led me to ponder the idea again and again. And I didn't do it all the time. I had a work life, right? Jobs, careers, school, 2 kids, right? I have had all of the trappings of modern life. I've experienced them. But along the way, I just felt this pull. It was a knowing that someone, the right person, the right thing, the right teaching was out there. So I was actively looking for the teacher. And it was going on, as I now know, looking back on it, it was going on all the time. The search was going on all the time, often, most often, in fact, at the subconscious level. So we don't even have to be consciously aware that we're seeking the teacher. And here's an important part that I want to talk about that has been pre-assigned to us. Now, why should this be the case? Well, their method of teaching best matches your learning, and vice versa, I should definitely say, with teaching and learning being the same thing. Our approaches at this time match the best. This explains a number of different things, including the multiplicity of spiritual teachers and traditions out there. There need to be multiple, many, many, many teachers. Why? Because there are many, many, many learners. And I've said before in previous videos, something that holds true is that certain people will respond best to you. Just like that. Certain people will respond best to your message. They'll respond best to your presentation, whether it's gentle and loving, or whether you're channeling a force, a voice that kind of wants to get your attention, as I sometimes am. It's usually a combination of those. And into this equation factors in your own cultural background, your own life experience, the teacher's own life experience. There's a convergence here. There's a convergence here. You will learn best from this person. And they will learn best from working with you. Again, teaching and learning being the same. So as soon as your teacher has answered the call, you'll begin looking for him or her if you haven't already. And those of you who are working with me and I am your teacher, this is what happens. This is what happened when I answered the call. There was something in you, whether you were consciously aware of it or not, that led you to start looking. There is a very famous phrase in Eastern philosophy that you may have heard before, that is, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Oh yeah, right? Yes, because when the student is looking, the student finds the teacher appears. So that's how that actually operates. And it's a beautiful thing. And as we see here in the answer to question 2, there's a lot of discussion about time in here. Let's just say that our meeting has been preordained. And then if you read these paragraphs and think about it, this may boggle the mind. But time, as we are taught to think about it here in the world, we're taught to conceive of it as linear and a clock going around and around. And it goes around again. And we've constructed these, what we call calendrical systems, that attempt to measure and quantify this thing that we call time. So we're raised to operate in a world where time appears to be linear. Here in suburban Phoenix, Arizona, it's 8:44. It's 08:44, 8:44 a.m. Soon it will be what we call 9 o'clock a.m. And time is going to appear to proceed. Then it'll be 10, then 11, then 12, We've got calendars. I've got calendars. I have appointments and clients and podcast appearances and there's sleep and going to the gym, and cooking. There's coffee time in the morning. There's nap time. Yeah. I mean, there's stuff. We fill our day with stuff. I'm no exception to that, but this is the world that we live in. But let's begin to entertain its illusory nature and accept that the world of time, as Jesus tells us, is the world of illusion. So all of these meetings are, of course, they're preordained and meant to happen because actually they've already happened. Here's a mind bender, possibly a mind bender. Everything we're looking at right now in what we call the present moment has in fact already happened. We're literally looking at the past. So yes, we're reliving the past. If you want to think about it as Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, we're living the same day over and over. It just doesn't look like the same day, and it certainly doesn't feel like the same day, does it? Because some days you're on top of the world and you feel great and you're in the flow and everything's going fantastic, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're sick, or you stumble and fall, or you get a past due bill notice in the mail and you think, oh no, I forgot to pay the credit card bill again. WTF? Something like that, right? Life comes at you. Yeah. So if this is your first exposure to the idea that there is no such thing as time, great. So be it. There's not. You will hear it again and again and again, and not just from me. So what do I suggest that you do about this? Just entertain the idea. I don't expect you to believe it. Who cares if you do or don't? I mean, the evidence that we appear to see here in the world tells us exactly the opposite, doesn't it? It says, yes, time is linear. And, if you don't hang up and get on time for your 10 o'clock appointment, your ass is late, right? It tells us things like that. What's really going on at the core? Remember, we're talking about time and we're approaching it, as Jesus has invited us to do, from the standpoint of the original question: who are their pupils? Who are the students of the teacher of God? You have students that are looking for you. Or if you have not yet answered the call, they will begin. Trust that they will begin to look for you as soon as you answer it. They may not be aware of it at the time, and they certainly don't have to be. I was not consciously aware myself of the teachers that I was looking for. In fact, I didn't really know who. This is the cool thing about it. You may have this same experience as if you're looking right now, is that you don't necessarily know who or what even it is you're looking for, but you're being pulled by your higher self again. It's you that's pulling you into the teaching learning situation that has been preordained, planned, and scripted. Why can we say this with 100% accuracy? Because it's already happened. It's already happened. So when you hear people talk about spirituality as an unlearning, yes, we're actually moving backwards, if you want to think of it that way. Back to a point where there was no separation at all. In truth, there never was a separation. We're unlearning this entire illusion of separation. We're unlearning everything that goes into, or more properly, has followed from the illusion of separation, including these sacrosanct notions that we hold in the world of time and space. We're unlearning them. If there is no separation of any kind, and I assure you there is not, there's no space, is there? Nor is there time. So yes, everything that we're seeing has in fact already taken place, and to unlearn completely, it never took place. We've never been separate from our source. Now, I hope that that gives some comfort. Here's what I recommend, because I know that some of you will get lost in this, and so be it. It's okay. You can always ask clarifying questions of human teachers, of non-human teachers. Yeah, do that if you've got them. I hope this raises them. I mean, it does. It does for everybody, doesn't it? Because it is exactly the opposite of what we're taught in the world. Ah, yes. Now, that may or may not come as a sigh of relief to you, but it is intended that eventually it will. Because if none of this has ever, in fact, actually happened, then our reality is where it's always been, in God as the Son of God, with our mind being his light, and nothing other than, no more, and certainly no less. We run into some difficulties along the way that are meant to be there along the way as we begin to disidentify with the ego and set it aside and frickin' give it up. Just give it up. And we begin to accept truth as it is, not the way we manipulatively want it to be, and orchestrating and all of this so it all manifests just the right way for us. Yeah, no. Yeah, as we begin to accept it for what it is, for who we are. Same. Expect resistance from this part of your mind that wants to continue to believe in the illusion, that wants to continue to believe that you are a separate self-sustaining survival unit. So along the way, there are frequent difficulties. I'm not saying this will happen exactly to you, but it may well. Because here in the world, a number of us have received some form of education, whether it's a formal education or whether it's education from the streets, right? We have reached a point in our lives where we've seen a thing or two. And there is, of course, an emphasis, again, whether you've had any formal schooling or training on this or not, doesn't make any difference, right? There is a profound emphasis here in the world on the intellectual, rational, so-called logical, right, thinking mind that parses things out and divides and subdivides and compares and contrasts. Not all of these divisions. There is a tendency that people have to get friggin' bogged down in the words of this. I'm not saying don't get bogged down on this, because you may have done this dozens and dozens of times. It's entirely possible, isn't it? Just notice when you are. Let's just start with that. Just notice when you're bogged down on an intellectual treadmill where you can't answer the question, when in linear time did the separation occur? Because the logical, rational mind is going to try to take a stab at that one multiple times. Happens. It's happened to me. It happens to everybody, right? It tries to think about, okay, when did this actually take place? Well, again, time is not linear, nor is it circular. It's an illusion. The question, when did the separation occur, is not answerable by the logical, thinking, rational mind. If you wish to save yourself some time, you can choose to just drop that question and or content yourself, accept that it never occurred, that there is no separation of any kind. It did not occur. Now, in the language of the world that we're using right here, this can be seen, and rightfully so, understandably so, as blowing your mind. Good. I invite you simply to notice when you're on the hamster wheel intellectually, attempting to use the symbols of the world to answer a question that those symbols can't answer. All of spiritual practice is about disidentifying with the ego. So we tend to think of this rational thinking mind as me, don't we? Like we think of the body as me. We think of this as the body mind. Remember, for 20 straight lessons in the workbook, Jesus had us spend significant time on the idea that I am not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. And you are. Just as I am, just as your worst political enemy is, just as historical dictators are. Well, what happens? We identify with the tiny mad idea, as the Course puts it, the ego, a false sense of self, and we allow it to run the show. Until, that is, we decide not to. Until we answer the call, because it's always there. The call is always there. God is constant. Love is constant, and it's ever present. It is omnipresent. It is all there is. And again, and I'll say this in multiple future videos, I'm sure, spirituality is all about allowing. It's about accepting that you are the Son of God, perfect, healed, and whole. There is no separation. All of this drama never, in truth, occurred, and we're engaged in a process of unlearning. So if you want to look at it in a scale of linear time, it's moving backwards, back to the point where we simply are. The concept of time, even if the present moment, in fact, is dropped. Here in the world, I use this all the time. I mean, I've been a meditation instructor for a number of years, had a meditation practice for many years prior to taking up A Course in Miracles, many years, decades, in fact. And we use the concept of the present moment being the only time there is here in the world. It's extremely helpful, isn't it, to return to what appears to be going on right now, return to right now, because we spend so much time thinking about the past or dwelling on the future anywhere but now. Even that, ultimately, as we've seen, is an illusion to be just let go. If there is no separation of any kind, think about it. There's no spatial separation. There's no space. There's no temporal separation between 1 minute ago and right now. There's no time. So let's just let that sit for a little while. And if you want to, if you're so inclined, go over this idea. You could spend weeks just rereading any of these answers that Jesus gives to these really beautiful and common, frequently asked questions. It's an FAQ section here. So, as always, take what applies to you. Certainly, I've said something, or maybe more than one thing, that's causing you to seek change. Ultimately, there's no change to be made. However, here in the world, you can and must eventually, I don't know if it's today, I don't know if it's even in this lifetime, change your mind. Use what we call the present moment to change your mind, to choose, yet again, to choose the strength of Christ, to choose love, to choose God. Use this moment, which, as we've just seen, is only what we call the present moment. Use it for your own awakening. Use it to extend love. Use it to forgive. Use it to extend kindness to everything that lives. And do only that. All of this metaphysical stuff will become clear in time. Our purpose today is to just talk about these ideas. And if this is your first introduction to it, good. If it is the 5,000th time you've heard something along these lines, good. It's where you're meant to be. It's scripted. It's part of our movie, so to speak. It's preordained. So, just before I wrap this video up, a helpful, I find this really helpful, a helpful reminder that you're always teaching. So when you become aware of this over the course of your day, ask yourself, what are you teaching? And the answer, we all hope, is you're teaching love. Thank you.